so as we know, Oklahoma is taking on Michigan tonight. That one at 7:30 Eastern on ABC. As we are now joined by our guy, Stanford Steve, the first time this season.
Yeah.
Hello,
Man, get one more scalp up in here, man. Come
I got cut
on.
last week. I didn't make the 53.
I need to join the club.
Come on now.
Shave it off. Shave it off. Okay, so we're going to play a little game of buy or sell. So obviously week one, there were a lot of good storylines and bad storylines. If you think about Arch Manning, Bill Belichick, UNC, obviously those were not so good.
There's a lot of good, too.
What?
There's a lot of good, but you got to
There was a lot of good. Yeah, we're buying and selling. There was also some good stuff. Shout out to my Miami Hurricanes. But let's do some buy or sell on whether or not we fall into some of these storylines. Kalen DeBoer will not last the season at Alabama. Do you buy that or sell that, HC?
I'm going to sell that right now because there's this thing called a $70 million buyout. I just don't think they're going to move on from Kalen DeBoer that fast, even though things looked so atrocious last week versus Florida State. A big game this week versus Louisiana Monroe. But other big games throughout the season, they're going to have to win because we all know that fan base. We heard everyone call on the Paul Feinbaum show and express their feelings about Kalen DeBoer and how it's been in his tenure so far in Alabama. But I'm going to go ahead and sell that. It won't happen this season.
I'm going to sell it too. I just think what we do now is totally overreact, and I get it. They look like trash. But I also got to give credit to Florida State, who really came out and balled out. And again, I understand people don't want to hear this now. You still have your whole conference schedule to play. You have plenty of room for improvement. I still look at the first couple of games if teams don't want to hear it. But it's kind of preseason mode still. Like coaches with all these transfers, there's only a certain amount of contact allowed in practice. And you guys know, guys are different in practice and games. Some guys rise up when the lights are on. And you got to figure that out. It just sucks that they had to do it at Florida State. So I give them time.
All right, the next one. Garrett Nussmeier is the best quarterback in the country. Steve,
I'm going to sell.
Okay.
Again, there's other guys. Right now, maybe, but I still look at John Mateer with an opportunity. Nussmeier was great. He's got plenty of toys to play with. He still takes a lot of chances, and I don't think he has to this year because they have a defense, so I'm going to sell that right now.
Yeah, I think I would too. One game sample size, right?
Correct.
Like we got a whole lot of football to be played. I think we have a good idea of what a lot of different guys could bring to the table. Mateer is one, again, it feels like he is set up for success in a way that could be huge. I still think that way about Cade Klubnik. I mean, I think that he was going up against a good LSU defense week one. Everything is sort of volatile, right? We kind of don't know what everybody's showing, so I think there's still a lot more time for us to see that.
So I am also going to sell that because I think that's going to be Lenore Sellers. I think he's going to be able to do more with less at South Carolina than the other quarterbacks across the country.
I would hope so, because that would be exciting as hell, wouldn't it?
All right, let's talk about another quarterback, Mike. Miami is the best team in the ACC. Are you buying or selling that?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
Right now, they are serious on the lines of scrimmage. And when you have that, which we know what Mario Cristobal wants to have, you let everything else fill out. They were super quiet about what the toys were that Beck has to play with, and boy, the receivers showed out. True freshmen, transfers. They lost their top 6 pass catchers from last year. And Beck didn't do spring ball, and they looked on point against what I think is the best secondary in the country in Notre Dame. So I put Miami up there,
I'm going to buy that as well. As much as it pains me being a Louisville alum, the biggest question for the Miami Hurricanes I had coming in was Carson Beck and how the rapport with those receivers and what it was going to look like. I was pretty damn impressed week one versus Notre Dame, and I agree with you. I believe Notre Dame has the best secondary in the country, and they ran routes, Chris, and got open left and right all night long.
Yeah, I'm buying for me and I'm buying for you too, because obviously it's Miami Hurricanes. I think, look, the ACC it has the chance to be a deep league. I think you could look at a lot of teams, even your Louisville Cardinals, and say, all right, there's a lot of teams that could win this conference similar to the Big 12. We're just not talking about it in that way because we didn't have the surprise, really, that we did last time. Go ahead and see.
I just look at the ACC this year. I think the top teams are even better.
Yes.
Than they were. Obviously, we got some bottom teams in there. But Miami, Florida State, you got to put them in there now. Clemson.
I look at Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech, Louisville, as long as they keep getting better.
SMU.
We haven't even seen them today, play anybody. So, I think the upper tier of the ACC is way improved this year.
We'll talk a little bit about about Florida State and a little bit more about them in a little bit, but let's talk about Arch Manning. Are you buying or selling that they will still go to the CFP with Arch?
I'm going to buy that. Okay. I'm going to buy that. I look at that, when you talk to the people at Texas, it felt like they have a lot of guys that they're confident in. They didn't want to thrust them into that atmosphere at Ohio State. They knew what they were up against, and now they get 3 games before they go to the Swamp in the first weekend of October. So I believe Texas still has everything. I'd like to see a little more separation from the receivers.
That part.
But, the way Sark involves tight ends, it was great to see Baxter. I think he's a home run threat that they missed last year. I'm going to buy that Texas goes to the playoffs.
So I'm going to buy it as well. And just like Steve just mentioned, that was the biggest surprise to me in Week 1 versus Ohio State, outside of Arch Manning, is the lack of separation that the wide receivers had.
Yeah.
I was high on that group coming into the season. I need to see a lot more. Not a little bit. I need to see a lot more from that group, from route running, getting open, making contested catches, and fine-tuning the details of the game. Because I'll be honest with you, that interception, the first one by Arch Manning, I would say this, as a former wide receiver, can I get that receiver to come downhill to the football like the DB did? And it's an easy completion. So those are the little things that I think that Texas have to fine-tune to be able to get to that point.
He's only going to get better.
Yes, and the other thing, too, about this Texas team, this defense has maybe 2 of the 15 best players in all of college football, and Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill. So, that defense is going to win you a couple games, too. Even if Arch still has time he needs to figure it out. So I think Texas is going to be all right.
Okay, we talked about the good teams in the ACC. Let's talk about one that didn't look so good this past weekend, and that was North Carolina. Are you buying or selling that Bill Belichick, or that North Carolina will regret hiring Bill Belichick?
I'm going to sell that. I still think he prides himself in player development. I think being on the sidelines and seeing the first time they punted, I'm like, whoa, they don't have a lot of size. Like the size of the roster. And this is what we are in now. 70 new players. You really don't know what you have. You're bringing a quarterback that you're paying, but Max Johnson comes in and looks way better. Sounds like they're going to go back to Gio. They got to figure things out. They do have a manageable schedule. Every team in the ACC would beg to have Carolina's schedule. They don't play any of the top teams. Or they play Clemson, but that's it. So I look, there's still room for improvement, and for Bill to put his footprint on this, I sell that theory.
Yeah, I'm going to sell that as well. All the great coaches that I've always been around, they said this: yes, I was great in coaching, but I had to have great players to put me on this pedestal.
Right.
North Carolina right now, they don't have great players.
No.
So just give Bill Belichick some time to be able to recruit his guys and get those players in there, and I think we're going to see a different tune.
Yeah, I would sell that, you could ever regret trying. It's Bill Belichick, right?
Yeah.
I do think that the challenging thing, though, is that makes this different. And, I meet with coaches every week, twice a week, because of the Thursday night games, and we always try to, get their perspective on, this new age college football and the things that have to go into it and everything like that. To me, this is just so much more complicated for him to come into, to figure out in 1 or even 2 years. This might take 3 to 4 years for him to really figure out, just because of how different the landscape is, and it's still changing.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, finally, Florida State. Are we buying or selling that they can make it to the playoff this season?
If they can, I'm buying that.
Yeah.
I had a struggle. I still had Clemson ranked ahead of Florida State in my rankings, and I made a mistake. Because when you look at who was more impressive in one game, it's Florida State. And you can put them up there with anybody in the country. We just talked about figuring things out. Mike Norvell totally struck out last year in his transfer portal. Now he hits some home runs, and you saw him. Malzahn, being the OC, might be the best one. When we know the history with him with a quarterback. Castellanos is perfect for that system. They are a dangerous, dangerous threat to make the playoffs.
So I'm buying this as well, and here's the difference in Week 1 that I loved about Florida State that I did not like about Clemson. Well, they got blitzed, Clemson that is, versus LSU a lot, and they never had an answer for it.
Yeah.
Well, the Florida State Seminoles, they had all kind of answers versus the Alabama Crimson Tide. So I am buying Florida State.
I'm buying it as well, man. I had a good feeling about this with Tommy Castellanos, and I'll tell you, I was in the room when Florida State got left out of the playoff. And I saw how Mike Norvell spoke to that team and just the leadership that he had. And I said it on Around the Horn the Monday after. I'm like, if you are a Seminoles fan, you are lucky to have that man as your head coach. Yeah. Obviously, last year did not go well. They figured it out. But I would say Tommy is one of the toughest players that I've ever watched in person. Him, Ty Lavatai that used to play at Navy, and Dylan Gabriel are three guys where I looked at and I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're willing to die out here for their teammates. And now that he is surrounded by more talent at Florida State, I think that they could go to the playoff, yes.
All right, that's a good one. ACC is really good this season. Very excited to see it. Steve, excited to see you as well. Do you
like talking about Florida State?
No, that's why I just said, I love to see it. There's an asterisk next to that. No, I don't. Steve, good to see you. Oklahoma, you got them tonight?
By a field goal.
Okay.
There you go.
You read between that.
Okay,
All right.
love it.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye.
We'll see you later.